Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Star Report. It is June the 28th, 2023, and I am Jason here at New Dimensions Crystals in Reiki in downtown Brenham, Texas, where I have my own physical location, rock shop, metaphysical healing space. And of course, we start today with the solar weather, which we know over the past several months has been intensifying because of the depleting shield or magnetic protection that the earth produces for itself. So therefore more of this stuff gets through. Therefore, the kinds of effects it has on our psychological makeup and our physical realities is increasing. So the sun will become more important, not less important. And then, of course, since there's a lower shield, also the astrology becomes more important because of the alignments of the planets, which causes magnetic and plasmic shifts in the galaxy and the solar system are going to continue to increase as well, and we'll feel them more. So let's start with the sun like we usually do. Today on the sun, there was an M-class solar flare that erupted, and it went off to the right side as you look at the sun. So ahead, the sun spins from left to right as the satellites are pointing at it. So when something goes off the right side, it's spinning away from the Earth and is going to miss us. But that doesn't mean that there's not a jolt of energy that goes through the Earth sun connection when those flares happen. And so flaring really triggers any kind of psychological issue you might be if you're on the spectrum of OCD or ADHD or anything like that. It'll sort of have more spacey days, right? If you have any kind of psychological things that are even more intense than that, like bipolar disorder, do they call it disorder anymore? I'm not a psychologist, so take this for me being knowledgeable about other things that happen to the brain and what the sun does with that. And so it'll cause those sort of things to happen more frequently or more intensely. Probably for the day that it happens, maybe into the next day after it happens, right? Because rebalancing the electrical system of your mind and body also takes time to re-regulate. And so that solar flare was not Earth facing, and there are no coronal holes, right? So we should be feeling less pressure, right? So solar flares are going to give us the brain stuff, and then also sometimes some heart fluttering, like we're having an anxious thing, like in between the throat and the heart. Get that sort of feeling that you have beating heart fast in the chest. Those are the kind of things that happen. And then when we have the coronal holes, it sort of makes us feel pressurized, like we're under some weight, like barometric pressure has picked up. And so we don't have any of that. There is a sunspot, which is where solar flares usually erupt from, a large one that is facing the Earth currently, directly facing. And so that one may erupt in the next day or so too. So I'll keep an eye on that, and so can you on your favorite space weather channel that you follow. But that's what's going on with the sun. Same thing, different day. There was a solar flare. All of this stuff sometimes affects what they call the Schumann resonance, but all of the hype from the last couple of weeks about that big shift and stuff and the measurements of that, those Schumann resonances have more than one location, right? And so that was one location that showed something happening on. So it was either local or a device malfunction where all that happened, right? Usually we're right around 7.8 hertz going through the Earth, and that's a nice hum or the vibration that the Earth has, which is the frequency that we sort of feel when we go outside and ground and put our feet in the grass, which is very healing and detoxing for the physical body. That's why people do it. So that's what's going on with all that stuff. The sun is doing what it does. We're going to go right into today, Wednesday, the 28th. And the astrology report for that is that today is a 22 Master Day. And so 22 Masters Days is really for consolidating all of your thoughts, ideas. You know, we've been working on a lot of stuff since January. The planets, the sun has done lots of things. We've been interacting physically and metaphysically with that energy, right? And then we've sort of had societal changes over that time, which seem to be bigger than usual. Right. And so consolidate sort of just means like you have a lot of ideas, or you have a lot of potential, start to put those down. Right. And then a lot of times we've been doing a dichotomy of physical reality and spiritual reality. Right. So we really want to start to merge those and consolidate those ideas. not like how can I be spiritual here and, make money over here, but how can you merge those together? And the energy of today is also being guided by Neptune, which in a couple of days we'll get to that, is about to go in retrograde. But Neptune is exerting his influence, and so that's sort of understanding that we are our soul, our light being self, right? And so stop efforting so much to be what others expect you to be, and start efforting and also stop efforting so much on what you are trying to present to somebody, and just be what you are, right? And so that's the energy of a master day. A master doesn't have to ask or get permission to be who they are in the world or to their interpersonal relationships. So that's the kind of energy of Wednesday. So if anybody's been struggling, especially since last week with the Mars and Venus sort of energy, might be slightly contentious today, but it's the energy for resolution, not necessarily the energy for more conflict. So pay attention to that. And then that brings us into Thursday, the 29th. Venus is going to be influential on that, right? So Venus is still giving us some good energy. And so Venus on Thursday is really going to be recentering this merger of the selves into a heart form, right? So in the heart, I know I always talk about the higher mind, but the heart really has more electrical influence over you, right? And really is probably more in control of what you're doing and who you are. So this is really sort of Venus is sort of giving you that higher than the high mind energy, which is going to allow you to sort of choose who you are and be that, and sort of a bigger picture of it, right? We've been down in the details, down in the weeds about how to fix this or how to fix that, whether that be like career or relationship stuff or physical upgrades and all those fun things. And so this is really sort of just, hey, keep going and see the bigger picture, the higher thing. Like, as a person who is worthy of love and who loves themselves, what am I and what does that look like? That's the kind of energy of Thursday. That sounds kind of intense for an astrological report for the week, but I'm just feeling it today, so I'm going to keep talking. That moves us into Friday, let's see, the 30th. And so Friday is when Neptune goes in retrograde. And so Neptune, blue planet way out there, depending on your belief systems or how much you've studied about the planets. Some ancient, I believe it's from the Far East, ancient understandings of how we get the planets is that they get birthed out of the sun and they move farther and farther out. So Neptune's way out there, right? So it's further ahead in spiritual development, physical development, if there were beings on its surface. And so it's also the higher octave. People who like music, Venus is right here. It's the higher octave of Venus. And so it's the planet of inspiration and dreams and the subconscious, right? So all of the things that make us a spiritual being, right? People that do dream work and understand dreams understand that the consciousness sort of leaves the body and has this multidimensional reality while we dream. That's the energy of Neptune. And so Neptune goes retrograde. And so retrograde is really the discovery, the uncovering of those kinds of things. And the retrograde is joining two other retrogrades, which are really sort of working on what is reality, what is consciousness, who am I on the inside / beyond the physical. That's really the energy that we've been sort of dealing with in the retrogrades, right? And so it's also joining the retrogrades of Pluto. And, Pluto is about your hidden power because it's even farther out there. It doesn't get a lot of sunlight, right? So it's sort of in the shadows, but it still exists. And so this is really the parts of ourselves that we think maybe aren't as important or haven't served us as well, or maybe we don't think are an asset, maybe even stuff that we don't share with other people because we're ashamed. Right. Pluto sort of going like those things are power, right? The things that have happened and the decisions that you've made have created who you are now to even decide that you want to be better. So they aren't bad. And this also goes back into that energy of consolidation too, right? So it's about joining the light and the dark of your own self. I know it sounds really intense. And And so this also, the cautionary tale is when we're in retrogrades, and Pluto's also about old hurts, right? So interpersonal relationship stuff, old hurts are coming up, or the energy will, right? They're not re-hurting. They're just sort of, it's coming up that you were hurt and that you maybe never solved that. And so that energy, when it goes retrograde, and especially in the combos now with Pluto, is really about acceptance. Hey, that happened, and forgiveness. It doesn't matter, or it doesn't need to keep rehappening, right? So forgiveness is really turning off the reoccurrence of it, right? Acknowledging that it does happen, and then turning off the power to keep hurting you, right? And so, sometimes forgiveness doesn't look as easy as they say in the spiritual world, right? And it becomes a process of forgiveness. But forgiveness sometimes it is about actually detaching the energy, right? And so it's, I know there's lots of phrases about, forgive but don't forget. It really is, if you're going to profit from the work, is forgiving and forgetting, right? Detaching and then not going back to revisit or remind yourself of that stuff. Oh, wow. Keep going. Still on Friday. That also joins Saturn, which is in retrograde. And Saturn is the authentic occupation, right? What are you building? What kind of service? Saturn in retrograde is really about, how can I not just serve myself? We've been a lot of self-reconstruction. We've been observing that the world might be falling apart, depending on your belief system or how you see what is coming across social media and or what they call old media or legacy media. Whatever might be being said out here, right, has sort of had the same arc of rediscovery and stuff happening, but it's really been, how are we separate from that over the last 6 months? This is really, how are we a part of that, and how are we creating authentic service to reshape that, right? If there is something that is broken about the world that we live in, which we haven't all reached perfection yet, so there's probably something wrong. War, pestilence, yada yada yada, monetary systems, banking systems, government, whatever those things sort of are doing, right? What can we do? What can you do to sort of create a life which starts to make that change for the better? All right. So Saturn's really causing, or calling, doesn't cause. You can resist anything that's happening. But the energy that is with you is, how can you get to be of service for the world? And then the energy that you're working on is to be seen, right? So to be seen means to be authentic, right? So we often worry about, what's our brand? How are we going to get seen? Why am I doing a video every week? All those kinds of things. But it's not necessarily about just being seen. It's about the ability to be consistent, right? So you're not looking for something necessarily that is crazy or unique or not in your normal wheelhouse of being who you are, but you're looking to sort of be consistent in who you are, and that building of momentum will get you seen, right? And so this is allowing somebody to see what you really are, not trying to get them to see something that you came up with, if that makes a little bit of sense. Hopefully it does, because I'm going to move on to the next anyway. It feels like I'm talking about this day a whole lot. Moving on to Saturday, which I think is July 1st. And so we'll be into a new month. And so we'll be under the zodiac sign, the solar sign of Cancer, right? We've been under that for about a week and a half now. And the sign of Cancer, which is about self-care, right? So this is all about caring about the self enough to know that it's worthy to be seen, and that it has something to offer outside of itself, to whether your world is just immediate family or something becomes more public about that, where you can sort of do that sort of culture changing stuff. And just sort of paying attention, if any of y'all have been having stomach issues or any kind of issues in the chest area or the spleen, that's the energy or the processing places or centers of the zodiac sign Cancer. We sort of go from the higher mind, and then now we're here, center of the chest, and I think left side of the rib cage. And then of course your stomach is right, just below your solar plexus. And so those are the centers. And sort of this is also the energy of trusting your gut, right? And so the sign of Cancer is about trusting your gut and then acting on that. So Cancer is really about making or manifesting not a spiritual understanding or a spiritual truth, but manifesting that spiritual truth into physical reality. So that's the energy of Cancer. Then, of course, the stomach, I just sort of mentioned, is about trusting your gut. And the spleen is really about detoxifying your blood, right? And so your blood is really carrying your life force through it, right? So it's sort of detoxifying your life force, getting out thoughts, feelings, and emotions you don't need to dwell on. And also allowing your body to sort of release that, right? And so a lot of times when we're going through shifts like this, we'll be tempted to increase our diet and do things that taste good and have larger quantities than we normally would, because we're feeling all that energy that's going through the stomach. And then, of course, that's going to cause your body to have to work overtime, because if you're eating a bunch of stuff which is made of unnatural things, it is considered toxic to the body. And so your spleen will be working overtime to sort of filter that blood out. And so sort of pay attention to and create more blood. Pay attention to that. Leads us into Monday, July 3rd, full moon in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And so this is going to be the energy of reset, right? So when we get to the full moon, it sort of draws out everything. It allows everything, even in the dark, to come to light, because it's all the light in the nighttime. This is about restructuring your life for the next 6 months. Like, what would you like to do? And so it's a full moon in Capricorn, which is a earth sign, a moon sign. And then Cancer, the full moon is going to be in Capricorn, my bad, which is an earth sign. And then the sun sign we just said is in Cancer. And so those are going to be not necessarily conflicting, but they're going to be sort of who are you going to be in the world? Are you going to be immature and old school and childish, or are you going to be an adult, right? This is a lot of the energy that I've sort of heard around coming in the shop is the efforting of doing the adult things that have become difficult or routine, or become more difficult in the past couple of years, whether that's paperwork or the economy going down. It's just adulting for the day. These are sort of some conflicting natures that are going to come up during the full moon and sort of reset themselves. So it's like, how can you have that childlike exuberance to do the adult things that you need to do? Sounds easier said than done, probably, right? And so sometimes energetically, that's the child is associated with the self, and the adult is associated with the world or the community, right? So how can you have the childish exuberance or the self-confidence of who you really are to offer that as an adult to the world, to make you better and the world better at the same time? So that's the energy that we end up with on Monday, July 3rd. Yeah. And then the 4th is no big energy. It's just Independence Day in the United States. And so all the energy that goes with that and everything that's been associated with the last couple hundred years of American society, those things become focused, but they come in focus in the energy of the planets, right? So if you want to continue the energy of the full moon from July 3rd into the 4th, then it is, how can you have childish exuberance for restructuring or reinvigorating a global, or at least a community of the United States that is positive and unifies our shadow and our spirit and makes them into one positive thing for the betterment of humanity. That sounds like a pretty good thing that you could transfer over into July 4th. And then, of course, that ends our week. Of course, I'll probably not be here working on July 4th. So pay attention for store hours if you are local, of some times next week where the shop will not be open or be available for booking sessions, which you can do at newdimensionscrystals.com. And by sessions, I mean any energetic sessions that I provide. You can see the descriptions online, but basically to help you remove some of that negative energy and align yourself so you feel the flow, or the flow works for you better. And then, of course, breath work and those kinds of other things that we do here at the shop. You can sign up for a one-on-one online and book that. For the foreseeable future, you can split that with another friend and come as a pair and sort of split that cost. But that's, it's an hour and a half thing of actually regulating all of this energy that is in the air, that is happening cosmically and astrologically, is being moved through the body through our breath, right? So if you're sort of feeling that you're having a shortness of breath, or that you're not experiencing life as full as you want, a breathwork session would really sort of help your body appreciate that, and bring in more spiritual energy and prana through the body to sort of help you physically to enliven to all of these shifts that are happening on the planet. That's a good thing to do. And then, of course, we have crystals and rocks and incense and other metaphysical tools here for you to use in any of your other practices like meditation or divination. And so be sure to go to newdimensionscrystals.com if you want to come by the shop downtown Brenham, Texas, and see me, Jason. Until next week, everybody, many blessings.